Hey everybody, it's Romania Black. Oh my god, we're on episode 8 of Attack on Titan season 3. Episodes 6 and 7 were amazing. They're some of my favorite in the series. They may not be as epic as Warrior or Scream have been, but they are still like such great back-to-back episodes to showcase character development, the themes of the show, which we'll talk about, and then also this like roller coaster of lore bombs meeting action, I love season 3 so far. For the record, I love season 3. It's great. It's like you've built up to this point and it's all coming together. It's great. I'm getting a much better picture of what's going on, I feel. There's just lots of key elements that we still don't know if you're watching this for the first time, what's going on. So I've got quite a bit of notes. I'm actually not as far ahead as I've been in the past. Episode 7 came out on Patreon today, and episode 5 came out on YouTube, so I'm not that far ahead anymore. And so I've got several really good comments about Rod Reiss, about Eren. I'm going to save those till after the reaction, because when we left off, Rod Reiss literally drank the Kool-Aid, and now he's becoming a Titan. So that's terrifying. And Eren is being rescued by Historia. And so I've got lots of comments about Eren and Rod Reiss specifically that tie to the royal family and the Titan shifters and everything. I've already started writing on the board to prepare, because I had some thoughts. I was like, I need to go ahead and write this out before I start. So yeah, Whiteboard Coon is going to be used a lot, I feel like, in the next part of these, because we're on episode 8. So if you know the 3-act structure in a story, I'm a big fan of it, especially with 12-episode series. We did it back with season 2. It's happening again with season 3. But episode 8 is like the turning point towards the climax of the season, the climax of the story. So for this season, episode 7, we were just like getting down to Eren's lowest point, which we're there. And then episode 8 is where things start to kind of ramp up towards the climax. So I'm really curious. I don't know how they're getting out of here, because there's really only one way out. It'd be really ironic if I'm assuming Eren's probably going to become a Titan to face old Papa Reiss, because otherwise they're like sitting ducks. So I'm assuming he'll have to become a Titan. It'll be really ironic if he has to burst out of the chapel the exact same way that Grisha burst out. It's going to be a nice parallel, only with the story of this time, instead of, murdering the whole family. But yeah, so we've got that. Like I said, I'm going to talk about Reiss and Eren after the reaction, because otherwise this will be a 20-minute intro, and it was 13 minutes last time, so I don't want to do that. But I do have a quick few notes I want to say before we start this reaction. First of all, thank you, Algu Malgu. Thank you for these 2 notes. One is that Roy, the reporter, one of the reasons in the manga that he's so hesitant to report the story that Erwin and the others are telling him is because his friend was the reporter that died after talking with the miner back in episode 25, the title card that was like all exposition. It was talking the miner story. His friend was the reporter that was killed alongside the miner. And now that we know about the military police and everything, we know that the military police silenced that guy that tried to dig under the wall. It all makes sense. I like that going back to season 1, all this stuff we're learning this season can be applied all the way back to the beginning. I have a feeling I'm going to need to rewatch this season especially before starting part 2. I feel like that's going to be needed. But Algi Malgium also noted that the 4 people that were arrested, the 4 main guys that were with the fake king, they don't really get named in the anime, so he or she went ahead and told me their names, that they were noted in the credits. Aril is for the nobles, so Mr. According to Plan is with the nobles. Gerald is the guy I've been calling Lurch, that's with the military. Deltoff is with the merchants, so that means with the kerchief. And then Roderick is the wall religion man. So I've got their names wrote down, so if we see them again, I'll know what their names are. Good to note. Thank you for that. James T. Fry noted on Patreon about how it's interesting that the way that Armin deduces that they can kill the Kinney Squad is the exact same way that they kill Titans, by attacking them from behind and decapitating them. Yeah, so them parallels, how we fight the Titans is how we're fighting the Kinney Squad, but they're all humans, so, like you do. Nathan Hardy, I have to give Nathan Hardy a shout out, because on Patreon for episode 7, you made me laugh out loud, because he noted, and this is pretty important to note, Rod tells Historia that she has to bite Eren's nape. She has to bite his nape and get the spinal fluid for the coordinate powers to transfer to her. If she doesn't do that, it's not going to work. And I hadn't thought about this, but Nathan pointed out, he's like, yeah, when that old man Titan, the Santa Claus Titan, eats Eren back in episode 5 of Trost in season 1, he doesn't turn into the coordinate because he didn't bite Eren's nape. He swallowed him whole. He didn't choose food. So all I could think about was how hilarious would it be if I think the old man Titan that ate Eren kind of reminds me of the old man Roland in Violet Evergarden. And so I just imagine little Roland with his postal gear on and ODM equipment like zipping around fighting Titans. I got such a laugh out of that. So thank you, Nathan. That made my day. Just imagining this little old man fighting all the Titans and with Mikasa like zooming around behind him. Amazing. So yeah, the only other thing I wanted to note other than that is that Christopher Peterson, I'm going to bring you up again after the reaction when we talk about Eren and Rod Reiss. But I noted last episode that, man, when they cut straight to the OP, when the episode starts, that's when it's serious. And all Christopher said was, yeah, when it cuts straight to the OP, you know it's going to be a crazy episode. When there's no OP, that's when it's serious. And I was like, wait, what? Are there going to be episodes where we have no OP? Because I'm not ready for that. So no. So yeah, I've got lots of comments about Eren and Rod Reiss, but I'm going to save them until after this reaction because we still have Rod and Eren to deal with in this episode. And so I'm going to save that. But all I can say is Historia, my girl, she literally, as Moth noted on Patreon, she went apeshit. And it's so satisfying to see her just let loose. If you had told me in season 1, episode 3, when we first saw Historia, that this sweet, innocent little girl that was offering to give Sasha her bread, that she was just gonna like be breaker of chains and suplex her dad onto the ground, I've been like, yeah, sure. But welcome to Attack on Titan, expectations subverted on a daily basis. So yeah. Let's dive into this, shall we? We're going to dive into episode 8, episode 45 technically, Outside the Walls of Orvud District. So it's a very weird title. We've had Sin and Wish, and then it cuts to this Outside the Walls of Orvud District. Interesting. But yeah, let's dive in. I've been so excited, y'all, to watch this episode. I've been thinking about it all day, and I'm ready. So without further ado, we're going to start this reaction here in 3, 2, 1, and let's go. Oh, okay. So this episode, man, this was it was like a secret exposition episode because there's lots of things happening beneath the surface in this episode that I feel like I want to go back and rewatch because on the surface, it seems very much kind of like episode 8 of season 2 because episode 8 was after the big battle and everything, right? And so it was kind of like Mikasa and Armin and Hannes and everybody regrouping and figuring out what they were going to do next. Because typically, as I said at the start of this video, your 3-act structure, you have episodes 1 through 4, which kind of sets up your main characters, it sets up the world, it sets up everything, and that's kind of what episodes 1 through 4 have done so far in this season. You set up Kinney, the Kinney squad, you set up the royal family thing, you set up Erwin and the coup d'etat, and everything. You set up all the things in play that was going to come into the picture and work out, and then in Act 2, those things get put into action. So we had the coup d'etat, we had Historia and Rod Reiss and the whole history of the royal family, we had Eren being captured, we had the lead up to Eren possibly getting eaten, and then Historia makes a choice in episode 7 to say, screw the structure in the system, I'm going to save Eren, I'm not going to eat him. And so that leads us into episode 8, and episode 8, by design, is supposed to be the start of the 3rd act, where we're building up to the climax of the story. And so for this season, it seems like our ragtag group versus the Rod Reiss Titan, or I'm going to call him the King Titan. I like the King Titan better. The King Titan, it's all leading up to that. I'll be honest with y'all, I really didn't think that they were getting out. I thought that Eren was going to become the Titan in this episode, was going to become a Titan, and I thought Eren was going to fight Rod Reiss. I didn't think Rod Reiss was going to become this giant colossal monster that does not look right. Something's wrong. We're going to talk about that. But I didn't see him becoming that big. I thought that Rod Reiss would stay like a decent sized Titan and Eren would fight him and Eren would have to kill him. And that would be, I thought the rest of the episode would be them figuring out how in the world to escape and reunite with Levi, and Eren and Historia coming to terms with what just happened. And we kind of have them coming to terms, but it's on a much different context. And this episode, it did not go at all how I thought it was going to go. So I was kind of like enraptured the whole time, like, what is happening? And so I'm sorry if that reaction wasn't great, but I was like, what is this? And trying to pay attention because lots of things are happening and there's so much setup here and so much foreshadowing and setup and symbolism. We just need to break it down, talk about it. But I've wrote down here on this board, not quite as many notes yet, but I had some things I want to talk about before getting into the episode proper. And I was waiting until watching this episode to talk about them. And I'm glad I did, because we'll talk about Eren as we get closer to that big conversation with him and Historia there. But I wanted to point out some things with Rod Reiss, since Rod Reiss is now this. It's really creepy because the King Titan looks like it's like crawling around on the ground with its head in the dirt, which is symbolic in itself, right? It's symbolic in itself that it can't even lift its head up out of the ground. It's just like crawling, like it's like Connie's mom, but it can actually move. And it's just crawling around with its head in the sand, and it just looks like a worm. It's very lowly. And it's so symbolic that the king, the man who could have been God, is now this lonely worm crawling across the ground, heading towards Orvud, which is interesting that he's specifically heading there. Southwest is what it looks like, southwest of Royal Rose, and is heading that direction. And so, yeah, I find it very symbolic that his Titan looks like that. There's something about the injection, because I asked in the last episode, I'm like, why do you have to be injected if you can just lick the serum and turn into a Titan? Why does injecting it matter? Clearly, this is why injecting it matters, because he's not right. He like doesn't have skin. It's all exposed. He's like burning hot where he's burning down the forest as he goes. It looks like No Face off Spirited Away, crawling around, only it's on fire. It's very creepy. It's a very creepy visual. And yeah, just, I love it, but it's so big. It's bigger than the Colossal Titan, which we need to talk about, right? Because Eren can read the bottles. He can read the bottles like Ymir and Reiner and them can. They're in the language of the Titans, which we need to talk about. We need to talk about that because it's opening up a can of worms. Anyway, what I wanted to note is that Christopher Peterson and Jason Fry, you two on Patreon and in the comments on YouTube with episode 7 when it came out, were big proponents about being the devil's advocate for Rod. And I wanted to talk about that because I've been pretty harsh about Rod. Here's the thing. I don't like Rod Reiss's character at all. I don't. But for the benefit of the doubt, because I've been a neutral party in this, watching this series, I will point out that Jason and Christopher bring up some really good points. And the idea is that Rod Reiss's character started out as someone that did want to stop the Titans. He wanted to liberate humanity. And him and his younger brother went to their father asking this to be done. And his dad said no. And his dad said that couldn't happen because of... Hanji labels it as the king's will. She labels it as... they label it as the king's will, saying that the first king is somehow having a control over all the predecessors and making it to where they don't want to liberate humanity from the Titans. Hanji makes it sound like it's like kind of a brainwashing thing in itself, like it's like a blocker or something that's inhibiting them from doing so. I don't know if that's the case or not, but that's the way Hanji is describing it. But the dad said no, and then once Yuri and Frida both gained the powers of the Titans, we don't know about Frida necessarily, but we know that Yuri said no as well. So somehow, once these people gained the power of the founding Titan, or the coordinate, they suddenly didn't want to liberate humanity from the Titans anymore. So there's two ways that you can look at that. Either it's like I talked in the last episode, and these characters figured out that, oh, we can play God and just rule this kingdom and maintain our own little status quo and our peace this way and just hold ourselves off away from the Titans and not worry about them. And part of me is like, I wonder if they thought it was a losing battle, that you can't defeat the Titans, so we just need to just hold up away from them and just hope that they never find us, and that's how we maintain peace. There's that side of it. But then there's also the other side, and I think this is the way Isayama is going, because it's Isayama, and Isayama, I'm sure, is like, how can we make this as cruel as possible? But the other thing is, when the coordinate gained those memories from the original founding Titan, they learned something so horrible that they were like, oh, there's no point. There's a reason why we want the Titans to control and force us into this cage. There's a reason for it. And I'm thinking it's the latter. and I'm not sure I'm ready to know what that truth is. It's like Isayama is dangling the carrot, being like, here's this poisonous carrot. Are you sure you want it? Are you sure you want the poison? Do you really want it? Oh, you do? Okay, fine. And we're going to find it out. And I don't know if I'm going to be ready for that, because it seems like Isayama is setting up that there's a really big reason. Because here's what I wanted to note as well. The coordinate doesn't want to talk about the Titans. The coordinate, whether it was Frida or Yuri or the father, didn't want to talk about the Titans and why humanity couldn't be liberated from them, right? In the same vein, I asked this in the last reaction, why can't Bertolt and Annie and Reiner talk about the Titans and what's going on? For some reason, they don't want to talk about it either. It's like the people that are Titan shifters don't want to talk about why humanity can't be liberated from them. They don't want to talk about it. And there has to be a reason. We just don't know it as the audience yet. And I'm assuming it's something really big. We just don't know why. Why can't you talk about it? But there's some clear reason. And what Jason and Christopher were noting is that over time, Rod came to see his father and brother and Frida as gods. He was like, you guys are omnipotent beings now that you have this power. So you are like a god. So in Rod's eyes, he's like, well, it's God's will. There has to be a reason why they don't want to liberate the Titans. So who am I to question them? And so over time, he let go of that dream and that wish and just kind of accepted the way things were and thought, well, things aren't so bad. I'm the king. I can do whatever I want. I guess this is okay. And then just kind of drank the Kool-Aid and went along with it. And so I get that. I get why Rod would think that he's right. Again, the series is all about perspective. And from Rod's perspective, he is in the right. He has had a reason to believe this. He questioned his own purpose. Because like Christopher and Jason noted, if he's wrong, then that puts his entire existence into question. We're going to talk about that with Historia and Eren, their whole existence being called into question. For Rod, he's no different than Eren and Historia. He's like, if my perspective's wrong, then my whole family's been doing this for generations in vain. And our whole existence is just, what's the point? So yeah, I get why Rod believes that. And I get that he's being sincere in that everything he's told Historia is from his perspective what he believes to be right. I still don't like him. And I still don't like the fact that he used, like Historia says, he manipulated people and killed people to maintain the status quo. Because here's the thing. If that were the case, and you know that you have the power of the Scream, which I guess he had to kill Historia's mom because at this point Grisha had taken the Scream power and ran off with it. And so he didn't have the option of taking Historia's mom to Frida and having her erase her memories. So why he killed Frida's mom, okay. But all the other people that died under the military police's watch, he could have just had Frida or his brother erase their memories. But he didn't. Instead, they just killed them. So he's a dictator. Rod is a dictator at the end of the day. He's a dictator who just maintained his own semblance of peace and prosperity under this guise of doing it for the sake of humanity. But at the same time, he still committed atrocious acts and let them keep going and was willing to sacrifice 50% of the population just to maintain his own family bloodline. So it's like, at the end of the day, depending on your perspective, you know, is Rod a good person? I still don't like Rod, and I think his actions are wrong, but I appreciate Christopher, you and Jason bringing up why Rod did the things that he did. I agree that makes sense. That all makes sense. I understand that. And I can get why he did the things he did, but still, I find it funny now that he's this giant, massive worm titan that's like bigger than the colossal titan. I'm like, how are they going to kill him? That's the question. How are they going to kill this guy? How are they going to kill the king titan? Because he's so hot. He doesn't have skin. There's no barrier there, no external barrier or layer there. Because if you think about it, the other titans, even Annie and Reiner and them, have had this external layer. Even Bertolt, to an extent, Bertolt's not been on fire. He's had the muscle over it, over that layer. This titan doesn't even look like it has the muscle fully developed. It's just raw and burning. And so I'm like, how are they going to get close enough with a sword to kill that? I don't know. That's the big question, is how are they going to kill the king titan? I don't understand how. Unless, here's the thing, unless if Erwin is realizing that Eren now has the ability, and we're going to talk about that, now has the ability to plug up the hole, he could plug up the hole at Wall Maria, maybe they're going to let Rod Reiss just go straight through the Orvud district wall. Maybe they're just going to let him go through the wall and then Eren's going to patch it up. Maybe that's what they're banking on. Maybe they're like, okay, Eren, now that you have this power and this ability, and we're going to put it to the test, we're going to have Rod Reiss go through the wall, and then you're going to patch up the wall real quick. And that way, Rod Reiss is on the outside. That's going to put Rod on the outside in Titan territory in the lands of Wall Maria. Because it doesn't seem like Rod Reiss's Titan form is after any specific human. He's just wallowing through the dirt like on a beeline trajectory towards just in a straight line. He has no rhyme or reason to his trajectory. He's just moving. So they're probably going to be like, let's just let him burst through the wall and then we'll plug it back up. But that's problematic because what if there's a Titan in the wall when he bursts through? What does that do? Or is he going to be like a Roomba where he gets to the wall and he just turns? He doesn't go through the wall, he just turns and starts going a different direction. That'd be funny. That'd be morbidly funny if he's just like a Roomba and he just like just turns around when he gets to the wall and he doesn't go over it. But yeah, we need to talk about this episode with that. But anyway, I get Rod Reiss's perspective. I do. I'm kind of with Historia. I don't agree with it. And I think a lot of his actions were wrong, but I get why he did it. Again, I feel like in this show, you can justify pretty much every character's actions as to why they did the thing. And then it becomes, okay, do you agree with it or not? It's like, what camp are you falling into? Honestly, I think it's only because I don't know a lot about them. I'm kind of in the Titan camp because I want to know more about them. I'm curious. I'm curious to know their backstory. And then once I find out their backstory, I may be like, oh, no. Humanity, let's back you guys in the Survey Corps up. But I'm kind of in Team Survey Corps, Team Titan right now. That may change. Just because I want to know more about the Titans. But anyway, so let's go through this episode. I've got stuff about Eren I want to talk about, but let's go through this episode proper as we get into it. So I was really surprised that we started back here with Levi and the scouts, and we did the whole backstory with them. I was curious how in the world with that net there are they going to get to Eren? And they had the little hole in the top. And as fate, there's a lot of moments in this episode where it's like, as fate would have it. It's like almost like we talk about God's will. It's like the will of God is like coming down because there's certain moments in here I'm like, man, they really lucked out on that. Like when Eren looked up and saw the hole had been made from Rod Reiss becoming the Titan. What luck, right? When Eren notices the jar that says armor on it. What luck. It just all happens. Things just work out. And it's very interesting how that goes, right? So Kaven is the blonde woman's name. And I'm not sure if she died or not. I guess maybe next episode, if we go back to Kenny, we'll find out if Kaven. I'm not going to put Kaven on my list yet of the dead, but the blonde woman, she got knocked in the head with a rock. So I don't know. But she may be on our list of the fallen for next episode. But okay, so I'm going to skip the OP here. Although I am getting said. I've noticed that we did have Bertolt, Reiner, and Annie and Marcel in the OP. I keep forgetting they're in the OP, and I'm like, we've not touched base with them. They're getting dangerously close to the edge of Wall Rose. I'm thinking, is the Beast Titan and the others going to show up like at the climax of this and be like, oh, Rod Reiss, you're a Titan now, huh? How's that working out for you? Like that's, it's setting up some things. Setting up some things indeed. So yeah, of course Mikasa and them are worried that they think it's Eren transforming in that moment. And they've got the scaffolding here. And Kaven and them, And then the transformation is crazy in this episode because Rod Reiss, I didn't expect him to become that large, like bigger than the Colossal Titan. And it's like his back's all wrong. Like his it's like a accordion, like a worm, like his spine is too long, like something's not right. And so then, yeah, let's talk about this. Kenny's dialogue is interesting in this episode. Kenny's dialogue is really interesting because he's getting like thrown around. He's getting thrown around all over the place. And that's when Armin and them notice, because yeah, the place is going to collapse. So it's good to note that the columns created by the Titan skin that were forged are not infallible. They can be broken. That's a bit terrifying because that means that a Titan can break through. If you're as big as Rod Reiss or the Colossal Titan, you could break through. But yeah, let's go back here. So yeah, I like that Levi says, okay, Moblit, Armin, get Hanji out of here. I love that. I love that Levi's like, get Hanji out of there, get them out, make sure they're safe. And you guys, since you're the least I feel like Moblet's a capable Survey Corps member, but Armin is probably the least combat-wise. So like, go ahead and get out. I also wanted to note that thinking back, so far in this series, if we're talking about Eren and Historia parallels, so far in this series, Eren and Historia have each only killed one Titan in human form. Both of them. They're both on equal footing. Eren killed the one Titan back in season 2, episode 5 in the Historia episode. What a connection, right? How funny that Eren's only kill in human form of a Titan was in the episode titled Historia. Funny that. And Historia's only kill in this series as a human was killing the Titan that was attacking Ymir in the episode titled Scream. Aha! Funny that the only time Eren and Historia have killed a Titan in human form while they've been in human form has been in episodes that are referencing each other. I find that funny. What a coincidence, right? So this Titan that Rod Reiss becomes is taking a long time to manifest. Like it's slowly getting the skin and stuff covering its skeleton. And I'm not entirely sure if that is because he drank the serum instead of having it injected, or if it's because he's so large that it's just taking that long to form. I think it's the former though, because when Bertolt becomes the Colossal Titan, it's like that. It's like instantaneous. There he is. He's the Colossal Titan. It took like 15 seconds and then he was there. Whereas in Rod's case, it takes a long time to develop. So interesting. And then Kenny says, Rod Reiss, you bastard. And then Eren, since the Titan's from the Reiss family, just let him come and eat me. We're going to talk about Eren. And Historia's like, hell no. And Eren's like, why won't you listen to me? And she says, I might be humanity's enemy, but I'm your ally. So she's putting her and Eren in the same boat because Eren's a Titan shifter. And she recognizes that. And she's like, you're just like Ymir. She's like, Eren, you're like Ymir. You may be humanity's enemy like me right now, but we're all allies together in this. So I loved Historia in this episode, for the record. I find it so funny that back in episode 1, Eren was the one kind of comforting Historia and telling her she was normal and giving her like the respect that she deserved. And here, Historia pays it back to him. And we'll talk about this. But yeah, she's like, I can't be a good girl and I don't want to be a god either. I love that line. She's like, I can't pretend to be this little goody two-shoes because it's not who I am, like I told you back in episode 1, but I don't want to be a god. She's like, no, I don't want that. And then when I see people crying to themselves and saying that they're not needed, I just want to tell those people that that's just not true. And she looks back to Ymir. No matter who, no matter where, I'll come to their rescue. I love it. I love it. Yeah. And that's when she gets it. Oh my gosh. And so the reason why, okay, so there's multiple bottles. There are multiple bottles. There's like 4 bottles. 4 bottles in that. I need to make another note. There's 4 bottles in that briefcase. Okay. And I'm going to make a note here about Marcel. We're going to talk about Marcel. There's 4 bottles in that briefcase. Okay. So here's the thing. Rod Reiss, the injection he was going to give Historia, or have Historia give herself, here's the thing about that. Okay, my question is, Eren is able to read the label on the bottle because he's a Titan shifter now, right? He could read that it said armor. And back in episode 4 of season 2, Reiner confronted Ymir because he's like, Ymir, how can you read the writing on this can? It's written in the same language as the Titans. And Ymir was like, shit. So if the bottles were labeled with the same language that the Titans could read, but that other people couldn't, then did Rod Reiss even know what he was giving Historia? Did he know he was giving her the Colossal Titan serum? Would Historia have become a Colossal Titan if she had injected herself with that? What? Because that's insane, right? That's insane. So I'm curious if there was a significance to that, to what Frida injected herself with, because she didn't become colossal when she injected herself. She looked more like Eren and like and like Annie. So that's curious, but we'll touch base back on that when we get to that point with Eren. But Mikasa getting, I love that look when Mikasa has Historia in her arms and she's like, Mikasa. It was almost like a moment like, am I shipping Historia and Mikasa now? No. It was a funny moment. And then, yeah, Levi showing up, and then Eren, my dude. And he's like, Captain, you guys. And I like that it's Jean holding Eren's arms and trying to rescue him. I like that it's Jean on one side, Levi on the other, and Connie coming up from behind. I love it. And then giving the keys. And then Eren saying, forget about me, hurry up and get out of here. And Jean being like, shut up, you topless wimp. I like that Jean acknowledges what we've all been thinking. Like, Eren, put a shirt on. Like, it's cold out. Like, I love it. It's not just a Titan. There are dudes with guns coming for us. So yeah, Jean's like, look, it's not just this thing growing beside us. We've also got all of Kenny's men trying to kill us too. We need to get you out of here. Like, it's not safe. And then, yeah. Just, oh my God. It's bigger than the Colossal Titan. Yeah. And it's just starting to burst through the top of the ground. And that's what's going to cause the collapse. Damn it. And yeah, I love that scene where they're all back up against the wall. It's kind of crazy. And yeah, the Titan is just bursting through. And you can see like there's a big glowing center to it. Like its heart. It's just growing. And so Kenny getting away saying, Rod, you done goofed. I can't believe the character in the show has uttered the phrase, you done goofed. He's like, you done goofed up big time. Yeah. Saying, you thought you knew Titans more than the rest of us. Ha! So, you thought you knew Titans more than the rest of us. So, Kenny acknowledging that maybe he's learned stuff from his grandpa too about the Titans that we don't know about and that Rod didn't know about. Maybe because Rod couldn't read the vial to know that it said Colossal, he was just giving Historia whatever. Because here's the thing. Frida's dead. She can't read the vials. The brother's dead. He can't read the vials. None of his other family members can read the vials. So Rod, who's not a Titan, he couldn't read the vials too. So whatever he was giving Historia, he probably didn't even know. He was just like, here's the serum. This changes you into a Titan. I can't read it, so I don't know. It could be that Yuri gave Frida a very specific vial to use, saying this won't turn you into a Colossal Titan. It'll turn you into just whatever Titan shifter is needed, and then you just go from there. So, I'm curious then about the serum. I'm going to put this over here to the side. With the serum, if we have a note about this, what kind is used to make the pure Titans? What kind makes the pure Titans? And I'm going to put this down here about pure. I'll put in quotation marks. We're going to talk about this when we get to it. But yeah, now I know you didn't, you dumb shit. So yeah, so apparently Rod didn't realize what he was doing. And so apparently Kenny knows that you're not supposed to ingest it orally. You're supposed to inject yourself. So Kenny knows it's seemingly quite a bit about the Titans. And he just assumed Rod knew as much too, but maybe not. But maybe since Yuri brought Kenny up and raised him, Yuri told Kenny a lot of this stuff, perhaps. Or Kenny was in the room when Yuri was talking about it. Interesting. The connection, I want to know more about Kenny and Yuri. And so I don't believe that Kenny's dead. Not at all. I think he got out of there. Now, this Caven woman says Captain Ackerman, and he's like, you idiots, get away. Ugh. And so, yeah, I love this shot of all of them back up against the wall. And in this moment, Sasha looks a lot like Hanji. And there's the briefcase, and all the vials are all like, there's a vial under Jean's leg, and there's 2 vials that are out of the briefcase. Oh. And there's no way out. And so, we talk about Eren starting in this. Wasn't he going to eat me? Yeah, here's the thing. Wasn't he going to eat me? But he isn't. He's just trying to get out of there. Yeah. It's like his whole purpose is like, he doesn't even have a purpose. He's just a mindless monster. Okay, so I want to talk about Eren, because the rest of this episode, a lot of it deals with Eren's psyche. Let me say, first and foremost, and Christopher Peterson talks about this, and I want to bring it up. I love what they're doing with Eren's character in this episode and in the last episode. I love it. As I talked to y'all back in the season 2 recap, we started getting it in episode 12 with Scream, when Eren had that breakdown after Hannes died and was doing the whole laugh crying and just losing it and talking about how Eren has thought for a long time that he's been useless. Eren has thought for a long time in this series. This is not just something that came out of nowhere. It snowballed and led to this moment, and this moment is the straw that broke the camel's back. But Eren, for a long time in this series, has thought of himself as weak and useless. And it goes back to season 1. Eren puts up a front he puts up the main character protagonist front, right? Eren has this big, giant personality, and he comes across as being like, yeah, I'm going to kill all the Titans and avenge my mother. And he's like, you guys should be strong, and we need to band together and do all this. But part of it's a front. Eren, in his mind, believes that he's weak and not strong enough to do anything. He notes in episode 3, he has that big conflict when the ODM gear isn't working. He's like, this is my only chance to prove that I'm not useless. And for a while, he starts to think that he is useless and that he's not going to be able to do anything. And then we find out that the ODM gear had a kink in it. And so that was the thing holding him back. In Trost, he's not able to prevent Thomas from dying. And so he has a freak out moment. And that freak out moment leads to Thomas and Nak and Mina dying. And he confronts Historia about that in the last episode. He's like, it's my fault they died because I wasn't strong enough to keep my composure when Thomas died. And it led everybody else in my squad getting killed. There was that. There's the whole idea from episode 10 and then an episode when he lost Levi's squad. Like, Eren has constantly been faced with this feeling of helplessness and uselessness because he hasn't figured out how to properly use his power. And they go back later on in this episode to Grisha telling him, you need to learn to control this ability. And that's the only way you're going to be able to help Mikasa, Armin, and the others and avenge your mother. So this whole feeling of helplessness has really been in Eren this entire series, but it's all been leading up to this moment. And I commented in the recap video for season 2 that by the time we get to Scream, Eren just lets it all out. He lets out all this emotion that he's had pent up inside of him. And we as the audience are like, okay, yeah, you've been dealing with a lot of shit this whole series. Let it out. But it's one of those things where, okay, he's let it out. That doesn't make it go away, right? And so Eren has had all this pressure put on him since then. You had at the start of season 2 where Hanji was like, you're going to plug up the wall. And you've had all this pressure of like, what are you going to do? You've got to make a choice. You've got no regrets. You got to live with it. You're going to help us seal Wall Maria up. You're going to be the savior of humanity. You're the linchpin in all this. And Eren's like, I don't know if I can do that because I feel useless. And I feel like in episode 6 and 7, it was like the one shred of information that Eren needed to justify his emotions was given to him. When Rod said, as long as Eren has the coordinate powers, the founding Titans, we're going to talk about that, the founding Titans' powers, then nothing will change and nothing can stop the Titans completely as long as Eren has this ability, according to Rod Reiss. And that's all Eren really needed to hear to justify how he's been feeling this entire series. He's like, no, Rod's right. My father took the power that he wasn't supposed to. He gave it to me for whatever reason. And I can't save humanity because I'm not a Reiss. So it's hopeless. Like, why? What can I do? It was like Rod's words were justifying everything that Eren's been feeling this entire series so far. And I'm glad that they're doing that with our main character. I really am, because in so many series, I feel like the protagonist hits a wall, but then they instantly get over it. They're like, man, I'm useless. And then the other character's like, no, you're not. You've got this secret power. And then he figures it out and he moves forward. And that's kind of what happens with Eren. He's got the scream power. We'll talk about that. But Eren, I like that this show is letting Eren go through the motions and it's giving him multiple episodes to just let all this emotion out. And I'm glad that Jean and Connie and all of them are there to hear it. And their reactions are so interesting. So Eren is questioning in this moment. He's like, do I transform? Should I transform? And he's like, no. And I like that he's reasoning out the possibilities. He's like, okay, if I transform, I can't withstand the wall collapsing on us and we'll all just die. He's like, so that's not going to work. Nah. He's like, my Titan can't withstand all that. And then he just gets sad because he's like, well, damn it, I have this power and I can't use it. Because if I try using it now, it's just going to make matters worse. And so I don't blame him for crying and breaking down. I feel so badly for Eren. And his voice actor gives it like 100%. His voice actor, he's so good in this episode and the last episode, conveying Eren's just utter desperation and hopelessness. It's like, yes, our main character is at his lowest point here. And when he says, I'm sorry, everyone, it's a callback to season 1 when around Jean and Connie and all of them, Eren was like, he's like, I'll be our savior and I'll save us. Just put all your faith in me. Like that season 1 Eren, it all comes crashing down in these episodes. Like that giant front of him feeling invincible and having this bravado, like, oh, I'm the main character, I'm going to solve all of our problems. It all just comes crashing down in this episode. And he's like, yeah, no, I'm just as flawed as anybody else. And what can I do at this point? And just the look on their faces, like Historia's reaction is she's like, shit, I've been dealing with this the last 2 episodes. Mikasa looks disgusted. Mikasa's like, why are you acting like this? Levi's not even looking at him. Levi's looking away because Levi, I'm sure, as we've seen in No Regrets, Levi knows this feeling. He knows exactly what Eren's going through because he had that same reaction when Farlin and Isabel died. He had that same feeling of helplessness and uselessness. And so, yeah, Levi probably understands exactly what he's going through. And then Jean is looking down at him like, really? You're showing this feelings now? Okay. And then Connie and Sasha just look like stunned, really. And then, of course, Armin doesn't get to see this. He's like, I've been nothing but useless. Ever since the very beginning, I was never the hope of humanity. And it's like, it's so sad that he's like, I've been making myself out to be this savior. And he's like, I'm not. He's like, I'm not the savior. I was put into this role against my will. And what can I do? And then he looks over to the vial and he reads it. And that's the thing. It's in the same little language that the can of tuna, that the can of herring was. And he says, armor. And then, what's this? You think you're some tragic hero? Yeah, and Jean's coming out. He's like, what do you think, you're the main character or something? He's like, when have you ever accomplished anything by your strength alone? And I love this part here where everybody starts to like band together to bring Eren up. And Jean's like, when have you ever been the sole savior of all of us? Nah. Yeah, no. And Connie just looks at him so pitifully. Connie's like, what a weakling. He's like, we've been through so much worse than this. And Sasha's like, not that I want to get used to it. She's like, I don't want to get used to this being the norm. But yeah, Sasha's like, we've dealt with a lot worse than this scenario. And then still, it's going to suck trying to navigate through all that. Connie's like, yeah, it's going to suck, but we've been through worse together. And Mikasa's like, nah, I got Eren. I got him. And Jean's like, we can't go nice and slow for you, so hold on for your life. And Historia's like, oh, we're doing this? And she's like, okay. And then Eren's just at the lowest point. He's like, we can't escape. And Historia's like, well, then what do you expect we're going to do? Nothing? No. Historia's like, we're going to sit here and hold hands till we're crushed or burned to death? She's like, I ain't doing that. I love strong-willed Historia in this moment because she's like, when Eren's at his lowest point, Historia's like, I'm going to lift you up, bestie. I'm going to lift you up just like you helped me. She's like, what, you think because we're enemies of humanity? And I like because we're enemies of humanity. Yeah, I like that Eren and Historia's putting her and Eren on equal footing. Historia's like, yeah, you took my sister's power. You may be an enemy of humanity. She's like, but I just denied my family getting that power back. So I'm in the same boat as you. And I love that look on Eren's face where he's like, what? Like, you're putting yourself... And then Levi's like, I hate doing this to you every time. I'm glad Isayama is wise enough to recognize that it's a trope at this point, that Levi's going to be like, #no regrets. I like that Isayama is recognizing that this is a thing. He's like, but Eren, I hate to tell you this again, but you have a choice. You got to make the choice. He's like, what are we going to do? Are you going to try to help us, or are you just going to give up and let us all die? And it cuts back to everything from season 1. Eren's like, I gotta do something. And then he grabs the vial, and they clearly didn't see it. And I was like, what is he gonna do with the vial? And then, since it's the end, just this once, I want you to let me make my choice. Yeah, so Eren's like, okay. He's like, this is my decision. And it's the end, so just let me do this. And I was like, why is he eating the armor vial? Why is he eating the armor serum? But let me believe in myself and my choice. Yeah. So again, the Eren and Historia parallels. Historia was able to make her choice in the last episode. She's like, and Historia is dealing with the consequences and embracing them. She's like, I know the decision I made. I'm going to embrace it. And so Eren in this moment is following suit, and he's like, this one time, let me make a choice, believe in myself, and this is my decision. So here's the thing that's interesting about all of this. Eren, he bites the vial, he drinks it, and turns into a Titan, but he turns into a Titan fine. He looks the same. He looks normal. He looks like the Eren Titan that we've always seen in the series. Except now he has magical ice armor powers that was in that. So I find that curious that for Reiss, I wonder if it goes back, and Levi's like, get under Eren, let's do this while we still can. So I wonder if there is something to the fact that Rod said that he cannot, because Rod said in the last episode, he's like, I cannot become a Titan. So I'm wondering if there's a reason behind that. If maybe only one Reiss child can become a Titan. It's only one can. There can be only one. We're doing Highlander here because none of Rod's other children became Titans at the same time. They all stayed human. Oddly enough, it was just Frida. You would think maybe that he would want, but we'll talk about all this on the wall. I'm going to get to it eventually, I promise. I just have it over here so I didn't have to drag it over later. But yeah. So yeah, it's curious that Eren was able to turn into the Titan fine. Because Eren wasn't desperate, right? Eren had a will. He had a goal and he had a will. He's like, I'm going to take this armor. I don't know exactly what's going to happen, but it says armor on here. So maybe it's going to be like Reiner and give me, I thought it was going to turn him into like an armored Titan like Reiner. That's what I thought it was going to do. But no, instead it gave him powers like Annie to make the crystal and the ore. So, but in that moment, Eren's like, I've got a mission. I've got a goal. I'm going to do this. I'm going to eat the vial, and my goal is to save everybody and use this armor to protect us from the collapse. So I guess that he had a goal in mind, and that's what helped him become a normal Titan. In Rod Reiss's case, Rod was just desperate and was like, I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm just going to do this. So I wonder if that's the difference. I don't know. And so then, yeah, now you have two Titans transforming, and you have all this armor popping out of nowhere. And so the Caven girl, she gets hit by the rock. And so it looks like she's probably dead. And then Kenny, we don't see Kenny get covered by the rock, but I'm guessing that Kenny gets out. Because there's no way, Isayama's not killing him off yet. We haven't got the final confrontation with him and Levi that I think that Kenny is going to die by Levi's hands or when Levi is around him. Either Levi is going to kill Kenny or Kenny's going to die in like Levi's arms, and that's when he's going to tell him things. I don't know. I just get that vibe, especially because I think that they're uncle and nephew. So, yeah. But yeah, Eren gets covered up. But it almost looks like it's showing him like starting to become like in the ore and everything. And so we see Moblit and Armin and Hanji get out of there, which is great. I'm glad. I also noticed that Moblit and Armin have the same colored shirt on. They both have the blue shirt. I like that. It's just a little continuity, like a little continuity thing that's pretty cool. And they get Hanji out of there, and then yeah, the chapel's gone, and Rod Reiss is bursting from the ground, and it is just like a fiery, like coming out of the depths of hell is like Rod Reiss just coming out of the ground. It's like nightmare fuel. Nightmare Fuel Titan Part 3 indeed. It's, oh my god, and it's so creepy, like the spine, and it has like the arms like Connie's mom. It's the most gross thing. And Erwin's like, what the hell? Yeah, of course the cadets, the Survey Corps shows up at the right time, and they're like, if it's that big from this far away, it's twice as big as, so it's like 100 meters, right? Or 120 meters. The wall won't stand a chance. And Erwin's like, welp, advance. Let's move forward. Let's do this. So we get to this imagery with Eren. And this is so cool. We've been going on about the series that the spine leading up to the brain is really important. Whenever Rod became the Titan originally, it showed his spine elongating, and then the head and the neck came up out of that. So clearly, and we've established that you need to bite the nape in order to not only take the Titan powers, but to also kill them. So that's important to the whole thing, right? And so I love this imagery of this spine just connecting to the rib cage, leading up into the neck that leads to Eren. And everything is skeletal up until Eren, and he has the skeletal mouth, and then that's where they cut him out. So they are able to get him out of there. So unlike Annie, they are able to get him out. So curious, I guess because this power is new for Eren, that he isn't able to perfect the hardening skill yet. So in Annie's case, she perfected it, and so they couldn't get her out of there. But in Eren's case, they're able to get him out. My gosh. And it's just the Titan is it made the armor there. Okay. So we get the title card. Yay. Information available for public disclosure. Titan hardening. An ability used by the armored Titan and so forth. And so forth. Thanks. For a Titan to harden their body. While in hiding, Eren Yeager conducted experiments to replicate this ability in order to plug Wall Maria. However, it wasn't until his attempt underground that he first succeeded in doing so. Oh, okay. So this is tying back to the manga. Some of you noted in episode 1 that the manga cut out previous attempts of Eren trying to use the hardening ability, but to no avail. So this is a callback to the manga, basically saying that he conducted experiments that didn't work while he was in hiding, and this is the first time he's actually succeeded. So, again, I noted back there at the beginning of season 1 that I didn't know if Eren even had the hardening ability. So, if it was even a possibility. But Eren, we're going to talk about this. Man, I can't wait to bring this up. But Eren, now that he's ate the vial with the armored Titan ability, can do that. So I guess that's suggesting that not only Annie can use the armored ability, but so can Reiner. He just hasn't. Reiner's armor is a little bit different. Interesting. So yeah. Okay. So they managed to get Eren out. And that's so cool. This ice sculpture of him as the Titan. And it's not disintegrating. And Levi, that's what I call hardening. Even after cutting you away, the Titan hasn't disappeared. It's just going to be this little shrine underground. It's pretty oppressive, isn't it? And so he says, that bottle, right before I turned into a Titan, I drank that armor bottle. And Levi's like, yeah, you couldn't do it at all before now, but you used the hardening power. So because you drank the armored bottle and you saved all of us, in the blink of an eye, you devised and built all of this to hold the structure up so that it wouldn't collapse. Yeah, the construction looks shoddy, but I bet that's how the walls were made too. Okay. So yeah, establishing in other words, now it's possible for us to plug up the hole in Wall Maria. So I like this, that Eren's moment of Eren having his own say in things. Eren making his own choice. He made a choice for himself. And because he made a choice for himself, now he has this ability that can do what he wanted to do to begin with. I love it. I absolutely love it. I love that it's led to this point. And Eren realizes that. And a lot of enemies and allies have died along the way. And getting this far hasn't been pretty. Right. But for as ugly as it's been, look at the position we're in now. It's like, yeah, things have been really sketchy leading up to this point, but now we're in a position that we can do something. Yeah, we can retake Wall Maria and investigate the basement. Yeah, so I like the Isayama. I like that we got the thing with the basement back in season 1, And Isayama was like, no, you're not ready for that yet. You're not ready for the basement yet. We need to work our way back to that. And now we're getting there. So yay! I'm glad that now Eren has this ability that we can pluck up Wall Maria and he can find out the basement. Yay! And then, but Eren's like, but my dad was actually, he was a Titan shifter. Mm-hmm. So he's thinking about that too. Yeah, and you can tell that Eren is frustrated because he's like, my father hid all this. And so then Sasha and Connie come back. I love that Sasha and Connie. I'm shipping them so hard. And then, yeah. And then I love that Sasha comes over and she's like, we're all safe thanks to you. She's like, but to be perfectly honest, when you ran off prancing while crying like a baby, I thought we were doomed. Yeah, it's over. Get it together, you nincompoop. Quit bawling like a snotty-nosed brat. That's what I was thinking. I love it. I love Sasha so brutally honest there. And Levi's like, we need to get out of here. We are going after that big-ass Titan. Oh, my God. And I love the shot. Again, it's like a flip from Warrior. Back in Warrior, it showed Eren reaching down and pulling Armin up, right? And in here, we reverse it. It shows Eren reaching down and Armin reaching down and pulling Eren up. I love that reversal. That's really great. I love it. And then, yeah, I love that the light from the inside the cavern, like, is shining down from below and it, like, illuminates them like moonlight. So interesting. Very interesting. So, yeah. So, look at this. This cavern and shit. This stuff extends quite a ways. So, if you look at this, if you look at this underground here where all the wall and stuff is supported, it goes for a ways, right? This is like, it's like an underground route almost. Huh. And then, yeah. Ugh. Yeah. It's just that the King Titan is so creepy and he's just digging his head through the dirt, not even looking up, not even looking where he's going. It's just, and just lighting the trees on fire as he goes. Yeah, we'll get burnt if we stick around. I like this little spiky haired dude with like a little Gohan haircut. It's like an abnormal, but it doesn't care about us. Yeah, so it's like an abnormal. Interesting. And then Erwin's like, well, we just need to find out what directions it's headed in. And I like that they're like, so yeah, Rod Reiss became a Titan, just so you know. And of course, I'm sure Erwin is thinking, excuse me? What? Poor Hanji. I feel bad for them because their shoulder... I like that Erwin looks down and they're like, Hanji's our only casualty. And Hanji's like, oh, hey, here's my bloody shoulder. And I like that Erwin's like, it just looks like a flesh wound. Nothing too serious. I've lost my whole arm, as you can see. In that moment, I almost called Erwin out being like, hey, that looks kind of serious. But Erwin's like, she'll be fine. Hanji be all right. Yeah. So, well done, everyone. Yeah. We got a slew of things to catch up on. And in the background is just the King Titan just crawling around like, what is that? Well, that's Rod Reiss. I love Erwin's reaction of, oh, huh. So things have been busy for you all too. You know, I love that. And then, okay, and they've got Eren and Historia. We don't have time to stand here and chat. Yeah, they got to get to return to Walsina. To the Orvud district. So is Orvud near Walsina then? It sounds like it is, the way that they described it, because where they were going in Orvud, and it looked very regal, like there were the nice purple buildings and structure. So it's southwestward. So they're like right on the outskirts of Walsina now. So yeah, interesting. It looks like it's on the outskirts of Walsina. It's just so creepy. It's just like a big old worm or like a grub worm just crawling around. Nope. I'm like, won't it eventually burn up? But I guess not. And so yeah, Hanji's sitting down, putting this all together. That Rod Reiss was after the founding Titan, Titan power inside of Eren. So, and unless it's someone with Reiss blood, you won't get its true potential. So I want to stop real quick and talk about that. Even if a Reiss obtains the founding Titan's power, then they're controlled by the first king's will and they refuse to liberate humanity from the Titans. Okay, yep. And Hanji's equating it to the willpower of it. Well, isn't that interesting? So I want to stop and comment about this real quick, because I wrote up here that I've got some things that I want to kind of elaborate on that I've been thinking about since episode 7. So I've been kind of trying to go through that theory and kind of narrow things down. So one thing that I find that is interesting in all of this is that so far, the Reiss family, Rod Reiss, Frida, everybody in the backstory of episode 7, they keep calling it the Founding Titan, right? They call it the Founding Titan. No one in humanity or the royal family has called it the Coordinate. Nobody's called it that except for Reiner and Bertolt. Reiner and Bertolt have been the only ones to call it the Coordinate. That's been it, and Ymir. So, back in the last episode reaction, I was talking about, is the Founding Titan actually the original Titan, or are they just a Titan shifter, that kind of went rogue, and then went rogue and developed this kingdom and made themselves a god? I think that's the case. Because why wouldn't they call themselves the Coordinate too? That term has never been brought up on humanity's side. It's always been the Founding Titan. They've never brought it up. Reiner and Bertolt are the only ones that have called Eren the Coordinate. And I think they're the same thing. I don't think they're different. I think they're the same thing. The only thing I can think of is that maybe Grisha was the Coordinate, but they say the Coordinate can control the Titans. And Reiner says this is the last person we want to have with that power. And that's the whole thing with the Scream. So it's either one of two things. Either the Coordinate and the Founding Titan are the same thing. It's the same power. And the Titan shifters call it the Coordinate and everyone else calls it the Founding Titan. So it's either that, or Grisha's power was the power of the Coordinate and Eren inherited that along with the Founding Titan powers. So it's one of those two scenarios, right? We just don't know. But the whole thing with the power in the vessel is tied to the Founding Titan, and that's the only thing that the humans have referred it to. The Titan shifters have called Eren's ability the Coordinate. So there's clearly some lingo there. Why Bertolt and Reiner call it one thing and not the other, there's a reason behind it, and we just don't know it yet. But here's the thing. So I put up here, I still think that the Reiss family, I still think that Sina, Maria, and Rose are the daughters of the original King Reiss. I think that's the case. I think that's the case. But my question, my thing in all of this is, I wonder if only one of the three daughters lived. If let's say Sina, I want to say Sina is the ancestor of the Reiss family, of Rod Reiss and them. I want to say Sina because Sina is at the center of it, right? And you would honestly think that the person with the most clout, that's the most important, would be at the center. So I think Sina was maybe the oldest sister, the oldest daughter. And then Sina had two sisters. Rose was the middle child and Maria was the youngest. And my theory is that they all gained Titan powers too. Sina probably gained the Coordinate powers and Maria and Rose gained other powers like the armored powers or the colossal powers. Or I've got a list here, but they gained powers of the Titans, right? And then my theory is that maybe Sina, being jealous or afraid that her sisters would try to take over, killed the other two sisters and stayed the only one with the Titan powers, right? Or the other option is Sina's the only one that gained the Titan powers. The King Reiss had three daughters. Sina gained the Coordinate powers, the Founding Titans powers from the king. And the other two daughters did not. The other two daughters are not Titans. They were just two sisters, kind of like Rod Reiss's kids. Like only Frida gained the power, and then the other siblings did not. So that actually might be more likely that Sina gained the power of the Coordinate and passed it down generation to generation. And there was Maria and Rose that were the other sisters. But here's the thing, okay? What if Sina grew jealous or afraid that Maria or Rose would try to take the powers from her and not her own children? And what if she tried to have Maria and Rose killed or had them taken out of the equation? Or as time went on, Maria and Rose's descendants were slowly hunted down and taken out of the picture too. That could be. And that could tie into the Ackermans and the Eastern clan. If maybe Maria and Rose, what if Rose married into the Ackerman family and the Ackermans were given the powers, to not be controlled by the king or whatever. And Maria married maybe someone from the Eastern clan and it came from that, right? We don't know. But my theory is that Eren, because as we established in episode 12, Eren did use the Scream. The whole episode's called Scream. He used the power of the coordinate in that moment. But he shouldn't have been able to, right? He should not have been able to if he wasn't a true Reiss, right? So my theory is that I think Carla is also a descendant of the royal family. And that she's just been hidden this whole time. Because here's the thing. If Grisha had the power of the coordinate, why did he have to pass it to Eren? Why couldn't Grisha have just used the power himself? Obviously, Grisha's not from the royal family then. Because if Grisha had Reiss blood in him, he could have used the coordinate's power, right? But he couldn't. So Grisha's like, I know I'm incomplete. I can't use the coordinate powers. But my son can, because my son has Reiss blood in him. My son has royal blood in him from Carla. So he's like, I can give Eren the power of the coordinate and it will work because Eren has the Reiss blood in him from her side. That's my theory. I think that Eren does have royal blood in him. It's just from Carla. It's from her side. She goes back to the royal family somehow, or back to the Titans somehow, and that's how Eren is able to do it. Now, I could be totally wrong. But that's just my theory at this point. I think Carla traces back to the royal family somehow. I think that Sina, Rose, and Maria are all the original daughters of the first king, and I think Sina has been the one that passed down the coordinate powers over time till it's gotten to Rod, Historia, Yuri, and Frida. And I think that the Ackermans in the Eastern Clan are the sword and the shield, or at least the sword is the Ackermans to the royal family. They defected. They were hunted down. And then Grisha fits into all this. Now, Grisha, he's kind of our odd man out because Grisha had access to the serum. He had access to information about the royal family. I think it's from Carla's side, but I'm not sure. But I think that Grisha has ties to the Titan Shifters somehow. He was able to be a Titan Shifter himself. So clearly he's tied to the Titan Shifters somehow. He may be our mole in all this. Grisha may have been the mole sent in by the Titan Shifters to penetrate the other side and to blend in. And here's the thing. Grisha became a little local hero in Shiganshina because he saved all those people from that epidemic, right? So Grisha made a name for himself as a good doctor, as the good doctor, as a good man, and was able to infiltrate and blend in and become part of society, and everyone revered him there as a doctor. And so he wasn't ever targeted. So he just slipped in and was the wolf in sheep's clothing. He married Carla. They had Eren. Maybe Carla revealed that she was related to the royal family, and Grisha was like, bingo, my kid could become the coordinate. Awesome. And put his plan into motion. I don't know. But the reason why I suspect that Carla might be descended is because we had this whole thing with Ymir and how Ymir and the people, the cult that she was with, were targeted because Ymir had been claimed to be a descendant or have the blood of the king in her. So I'm wondering if the descendants of Maria and Rose were hunted down because the people were like, oh, well, if they have the blood of the king in them, what if one of their children eventually find out about the coordinate and they try to steal our power, right? Because so far, Rod Reiss, the whole family, is passed down generation to generation without fail. There's never been any strange cousins come in, there's never been any cousins or anything come in to stop the situation or try to take it for themselves. So I find that fascinating, but I honestly think that if Sina wanted to secure the whole passing down from generation to generation, that eventually, if they are in fact three sisters, that the two sisters, they would have to be cut out of the tree. Get rid of their kin, and just have one family line to go down from generation to generation. And that would explain why anytime someone was ousted as trying to say that they were the blood of the king, they were all taken care of, because we can't have that. Can't have somebody coming out. But then that also begs the question, right? Why turn them into Titans? Why was Ymir's group turned into Titans to begin with? Why weren't they just killed? That's the thing. That's one of the pieces of the puzzle that I can't figure out yet, is why was Ymir's group even turned into Titans to begin with? Why? Why were they turned into Titans to begin with? Why weren't they just killed? All these other people under Rod Reiss's command have been killed. Why not Ymir? But Ymir goes back 60 years. So that's before Rod Reiss's time. That's before Yuri's time. That's probably even before their father's time. So maybe back then they were turning people into Titans and then realized, we shouldn't do that. Let's just kill them instead. So I don't know. That's one piece of puzzle I've not figured out yet. But yeah, but there's a connection to all this. And I think that Eren's related to the royal family somehow. We just don't know it. We just don't know what yet or how. Yeah. So getting back to the episode. According to the first king, this is true peace. Yeah, and so here's the other thing too. If we talk about different perspectives, then yeah, if we're going to defend Rod Reiss and play devil's advocate, then sure. You create your little kingdom and you play God and you rule over it, but within the walls, there are no Titan attacks. There's no Titans. And if you're going to play devil's advocate here and throw the Titan shifters under the bus completely, then the idea is that, yeah, you're trapped in the cage, but there's no threat because the walls are there. And also, you're kind of scapegoating the Titans as the other, as the enemy. If we go back to season 1, the idea of there being a black and white enemy, it kind of was in some way a way that humanity was united, because you had humanity all united to take care of this one threat. You're like, okay, well, there are Titans. So there are Titans and they're the enemy. So if we all band together and stop the Titans, then we can have peace. And so, yeah, I can kind of see how you'd forge that kingdom and you'd use the Titans as a scapegoat and a means to be the enemy that we fight constantly and to make it black and white. And then that way, yeah, humanity all bands together to stop the Titans. The problem with that is that during all this time, while that was going on, there was lots of corrupt things going on under the scene, like people being murdered and silenced, and this personnel ODM gear being created to kill humans instead of Titans, and history books being altered and people's memories being erased, and lots of other unethical things happening under the guise of peace. So yeah, that's kind of one angle that we're getting at. And Hanji, that's a weird way to look at it. Mm-hmm. You're trapped inside the cage. Yeah. Trapped inside the cage. And so Eren says we still have an option. And Eren is still on the boat. He's like, if that Titan eats me, Rod Reiss will return to a human. And which means there's still a possibility to have a true founding Titan. And Mikasa's like, excuse me. And Levi's like, Mikasa's like, well, you can't do that. And Levi's like, yep, seems that way. Levi's not sugarcoating anything. We could capture Rod Reiss once he becomes a human and undo the first king's brainwashing. But again, that's kind of like a logical fallacy too. It's like, I'm glad Historia speaks up. I'm so glad Historia speaks up, because Levi's like, yeah, we could just undo the brainwashing. And Historia's like, y'all weren't in the cave with us. You don't know how deep this shit gets. And then we might have a path to save humanity. And Historia's like, that's not going to happen. She's like, no, he's not going to save humanity. We just went through this in the last episode. But Levi says, are you fully prepared to let that happen? And that look on Eren's face when he's like, yeah, I am. And they all look at each other like, our suicidal maniac really is a suicidal maniac. Like, he's willing to let himself be eaten if it means the possibility that humanity is saved. But I'm glad that Historia speaks up. She's like, you're forgetting our other option. She's like, that plan is full of flaws. And I'm like, good, point this out, girl. Tell us all these flaws. She's like, there's no proof you can undo the brainwashing. No. She's like, that's one. And she's like, two, no matter how you restrain him, if he alters humanity's memories, it's over. She's like, yeah, and that's the thing. He would alter their memories because Rod wants it to go back to the status quo. She's like, Rod doesn't care about saving humanity. In his eyes, saving humanity is the status quo, how they're doing it now. So he's not going to undo the brainwashing. He's going to erase their memories even more and put things back the way that they were. She's like, nah, not going to work. And there's too many factors about the founding Titan that we just don't know. Exactly. There's too many things we don't know about the founding Titan that we've not learned yet. And I like that Armin speaks up and says it's true. Armin is our strategist. He's our smart guy. He's like, even if Rod eats Eren, we don't know he'll return to normal. What he is now is not normal. So who's to say if he eats Eren, it's even going to matter? And right now his face is in the dirt. He's not even lifting it up to even eat Eren and doesn't seem interested in eating Eren. Yeah, no. There's no guarantee of any of that. Right. Yeah, and Historia's like, thank you, Armin, for being on the same page. On the other hand, all we've ever known is destructive pacifists. I love that. All we've ever known is destructive pacifists. People that have just sat on the sidelines and not done anything and just let things happen. Because honestly, I talked about that in the last reaction. Frida didn't go out to stop the Colossal Titan or the Armored Titan, right? Didn't seek them out and try to stop them. Didn't seek... If Frida had... Here's the thing. They have this armor bottle. Why didn't Frida take the armor bottle, inject it, and go plug up Wall Maria herself? Why didn't she offer to do that? Right? Why wasn't that on the table? And we don't know for sure because Grisha showed up that night and Grisha showed up and killed them all. So if Frida was going to do that, we don't know. But I'm gonna guess no, because otherwise wouldn't have... Here's the thing. I'm gonna guess no. Because otherwise, why didn't Rod take Historia in that moment? The night that Kenny came to kill the mistress and Historia. Why didn't Rod just sneak her to the chapel, tell her what was going on, have her become a Titan? Well, they didn't have the coordinate. They didn't have the coordinates, so that wouldn't have worked. Crap. But... yeah. So, but yeah, Historia's saying all we've ever known is people that have just kept the status quo and it's been destructive. The founding Titan was taken from them. This is a once-in-a-lifetime chance for humanity. She's like, this is humanity's only chance to do something without the founding Titan brainwashing them. Yeah. She's like, yeah. Your father was trying to save us and humanity from the first king. And that perspective, it's so funny that you have opposite ends of the spectrum. You have Eren who believes that he should get eaten and that's the only way is for a true king to come about to save humanity. But Historia's pointing out all the flaws, and Historia's like, no, maybe your dad was onto something. Maybe your dad was trying to save humanity from the first king by getting that coordinate power away. Maybe no one needs to be a god. Maybe no one needs to have that much power, right? Maybe that's not ideal. He stole the founding Titan from my sister, murdered all the Reiss children, because he had no other choice. And I think that that's true. I think that Grisha in that moment, whatever he was pleading down in the chapel, they weren't going to listen to him. And so he's like, fine, you've put me in a corner. This is the only option I have left. And that's how he got it, right? And Eren's like, I didn't think about it that way. And so then we cut back to Eren thinking about his memories. And we don't get to see what's on the label for the Titan. We don't get to see what's on the label. There is no label. If you want to save Mikasa, Armin, and everybody else. It's so sad seeing Grisha crying while he's doing this. Then you have to learn to control this ability. And then Eren reaches up to his head remembering his father. And Armin's like, that's right. The Dr. Yeager I know wouldn't do something like that for no reason at all. So yeah, so Armin, the way Armin phrases it, it's like, I'm not saying that Dr. Yeager, what his true intentions were, but he wouldn't have acted unless there was a reason. So I like Armin's acknowledging, he's like, we don't know whether his reasons were for or against humanity yet, but we know that there was a reason he did what he did. There was a reason he took the coordinate power, and there was a reason he gave it to you. So we can't just assume that he just did it out of panic. There was clearly a method behind this. And I do feel bad for Grisha now. I really do, because in all the flashbacks we see of him now, he's just crying. And to imagine that Grisha took this power and knew he was going to die instantly afterwards. I feel bad I put him in D rank. I really do. But yeah, and Mikasa says, even without having Reiss blood, there must be a way to save humanity. Yeah, we can't just... That's why he left you the key to the basement. He knows that there's a reason. That's why he left it. And Historia's like, yeah, there's a reason, right? And I like the Hanji doesn't say anything. They just look up well, yep. And Sasha's like, wait, what basement? That whole thing? You mean it's actually important? I loved it. She's like, oh, we forgot about this. And John's like, we've got a way to plug up the wall now. So we have, the way I see it, there's only one choice. And Levi's like, well, this is going to make life a little bit easier now that Eren's got this ability. And Hanji's like, if it means anything, I agree with this. But are you sure about this, Historia? We can't exactly have a Titan like that wandering around inside the walls. One that big we can't restrain. Yep. And Hanji's like, meaning. And I love that Hanji raises the bloody hand. Like, we're going to have to murder the king. We're going to have to murder that monstrosity. And Hanji says it with the bloody finger. We'll have to kill your father. There's no way around it. And Historia, it's like, that's the big decision. But honestly, at this point, I think Historia knows that her actions have led to this moment. And so Historia's like, yeah, I know what we got to do at this point. So I like the Historia says, Eren, I'm sorry. But underneath the Reiss Chapel, I considered becoming a Titan and killing you. Like, I considered doing what you wanted me to do. But I didn't even do it to save humanity. Historia's like, I did it so I could earn, because I wanted to believe my father and that he was right. I didn't want my father to hate me. And that goes back, a lot of you commented that in the last episode when Eren was pitiful and was so saying he wasn't needed, Historia, in the reaction I said that it related to Historia's mom, but it really relates to Historia. Historia's mother shoving her away and saying that she was useless and didn't deserve to exist. Historia saw in that moment when Eren was saying that he didn't deserve to exist, she saw the parallels between the two of them. So I think that's really, really cool. And then Historia, I love that between the two of them, where she says, but now it's time to say goodbye. Like, I have to say goodbye to my father, and this whole, the old way is no longer. Yeah. So the regiment branch of the Orvud district. Interesting. Interesting indeed. Mm-hmm. So we go here to everybody meeting up. And I like Levi is petting the little horse's nuzzle. Like, just like, hey, horse. Like, I love that. And then I don't know who this guy with the spiky hair looks like Gohan is, but I like him. He's an interesting character so far. I'm trying to see if I have any notes that I've not talked about yet. It doesn't look like it, but I'm going to talk about this board here in a second. So they're about to meet with the strategy meeting. And then Levi, bless his heart, he's so blunt that Levi's like, hey, so I know we've been in that wagon for the last hour, but while I have you here, I want to go ahead and tell you about something. So, yeah, we need you to do something. It's no big deal. Don't worry about it. It's not a big thing. It's just Erwin's orders, not mine. When this battle's over, since you're the true successor to the throne, you know, we kind of need you to become queen. It's just something little. And everybody's like, Queen Historia. Mm-hmm. He says, the coup d'etat was successful. People won't follow regiment sitting at the top. They need a ruler. And what we need is a story to spread, that the true heir retook the crown from the fake. Uh-huh. And I love in this moment that Connie and Jean stand up for her. And they're like, I don't know if you've been sitting in the same wagon we've been sitting in for the last hour, but Historia finally broke free from her father. She broke free from all this burden, from her role and everything. She's now her own person and has this freedom. So is it fair for us to do this? I love that they bring this up. They're like, is it fair for us to make her become queen after everything she's just gone through? Like, she's finally found her freedom and found herself. And you're forcing her into another role? Isn't that, you know, just the same thing that her dad was trying to do earlier? I love that Jean and Connie stick up for her. I absolutely love it. Our king Jean and Connie. And then Historia's like, my next duty is to be queen, okay? Fine. I'll do it. I love it. She's like, nah. She's like, I'm glad you all were concerned for me, but whether or not it's forced on me is up to me to decide. She's like, so she's saying it really is my choice at the end of this. She's like, yeah, I'm being told that this is what needs to happen, but at the end of the day, it is my choice whether or not I do it. And that calls back to Eren, right? Eren, in that moment, under the cathedral, Levi's like, yeah, obviously the obvious choice is that you want to turn into a Titan and save us. But at the end of the day, it is your choice whether or not that happens. So it's up to you. We can't make you do it. It's just, what are you going to do? And Historia kind of is faced with the same exact choice. And she chooses to become queen. But I like this. She's like, however, I have one condition. I like it. And Levi's like, huh? And since my fate is my own, I want to lay it all on the line. So she's like, I'm joining you all. If we're doing this, if I'm going to become queen, I'm going after my dad too, along with all of you. That's just how it's going to happen. And I love she just swaggers up there, throwing her shoulders like, yeah, you got a problem with this? I love it. I love it. She just swaggers on up there and stands next to Mikasa and beside Eren. And I love Mikasa. Mikasa, I love the smirk that she gives. She's like, when you're queen, you can punch that runt in the face. I love it because Mikasa's like, Levi's giving you a hard time, huh? Well, you know, you can punch him after you're queen. I love that Mikasa is just bringing it up. I am all aboard the Mikasa, Historia, Eren bestie train. All for it. All for it indeed. So yeah, so we have here, Erwin is here, and the Orvud people are there, and Moblet and Hanji and them. Of Rod Reiss' Titan. It's southwest, approaching Orvud, and should reach there by dawn. It's always by dawn, right? It's this whole series. Everything bad happens at night, and then the day breaks, and things get better, right? Or get worse, right? And so then, yeah, we'd like to hear what your plan is. Do you intend to evacuate the citizens in time? And he's like, we won't evacuate. So I'm curious, because I guess he's assuming that they're going to destroy the Titan before that he gets to Orvud. Before he gets to there. Yeah, we don't get his plan. We just get that they're going to probably try to destroy the Titan before he even makes it there. Interesting. Interesting indeed. So yeah. So basically, and then the episode ends. So basically, Queen Historia, F yeah, let's do this. I'm curious. What I'm curious about in all of this is the different serums. The thing that I haven't talked about is the armor. We can assume is connected to Annie and Reiner somehow. So we have these vials. There were 4 vials there in the episode, and so we know armor was one of the vials. I'm wondering if Colossal was one of the vials, and maybe we don't know what Marcel was. And then there's the idea of the pure Titans. So the injection that Grisha gave Eren didn't have a label on it. So I wonder if there's just a regular serum that turns them into just putty Titans to normal pure Titans. And maybe that's what Grisha gave Eren. And maybe that's what Rod gave to Frida. Because Frida kind of became just a normal Titan. And then she ate the coordinate, her uncle. So I wonder if that's the case. So it sounds like there's an armor Titan. There's something for the pure Titans. And the pure Titan serum could also be like what they gave to the regular people that were shuttled off the wall. Like Ymir's group, they were just given the regular pure Titan serum, right? So, because I can't imagine what if they gave Ymir the Colossal Titan serum and she just became this 50-meter tall Titan. That would have been bad. So I'm assuming there's a pure Titan serum, an armored Titan serum, probably a Colossal Titan serum, maybe. And then what we don't know is what Marcel was, and we don't know about the Beast Titan, right? We don't know about the Beast Titan. Like, is there a serum just for the Beast Titan, or how does that work? The Beast Titan is so different than the other Titans that I'm curious if it's even a serum option, or if the Beast Titan is just his own thing. If there's only one Beast Titan. Kind of like there's one coordinate. But I find it curious. At first I just had armor, Colossal, and Beast. And then I put pure on there. So it'd be funny if there was the pure Titans, the Colossal, and the armor, like the rule of 3. But I think there's more to it than that. But again, where does the Titan serum come from? How is it made? How does it work? We don't know that. We don't know if the coordinate and if the founding Titan was the original Titan or not. We don't know why the Titan shifters call him the coordinate. We don't know Grisha's role in all this. What was Grisha's ability? Weird Pianist noted that technically, and I didn't even think about this until this episode, Eren has technically 2 Titan powers, supposedly, right? So Eren had whatever Titan power Grisha had. I thought in the last episode that the coordinate power kind of overrid the other powers, and that once you eat the coordinate and the founding Titan, that becomes your power, and it kind of erases the other ability. But that might not be the case. So, and Eren now has the armor Titan ability too. So we don't know what Grisha's ability was. Because he looked pretty normal other than having like a hairy chest. He looked pretty normal fighting Frida. So we don't know his ability. It's not Colossal or armored that we know of. So we're not sure. But Eren has Grisha's power now. the power of the coordinate, and the armored power. I'm like, is this going to be kind of like Captain Planet? And he's going to go around collecting all of the Titan shifter powers to like house them all together and use them at will? Because that would be pretty insane, if I'm honest. That would be kind of insane. Yeah. I don't know. It's odd that the Titan bottles were labeled. So here's the thing. Did the people that injected Reiner and Bertolt, did they inject them specifically with a certain type of serum? Like, was Reiner given the armored Titan serum and then Reiner ate a Titan shifter that had the armored Titan ability, and it kind of mutated into his? Because Reiner's armor is different than Annie's and the power that Eren used. So is Reiner's like a mutation? I don't know. That's, again, we're getting so much on the royal family and yet so little. And so much on humanity's side. I'm still waiting to find out about the Titan shifters and their part of the story. And I have a feeling that we're not going to get that in part 1. I have a feeling that's part 2. Because we're setting up here that the climax, we've got episodes 9, 10, 11, and 12. We have 4 episodes left of part 1. And I feel like they're all going to be dealing with how do we deal with King Rod Reiss and the King Titan. How are we going to deal with that? So, yeah. We're setting everything up, but I have a feeling we're not going to get the Titan shifters yet. Unless it's like the final episode and they show up. I don't know how they're killing Rod Reiss. I really don't. I don't know how they're killing him. Because I don't think they can get close enough to do it. And I think he's burning. I don't think Eren can do it either. The only thing I can think of is if Eren uses his hardening ability to maybe make a cage around Rod Reiss to trap him. I don't know. Or they're going to get him cornered and then Bertolt and Reiner and all them are going to pop back up in the last part of the season and be like, surprise, bitch, you thought you saw the last of us, and then come in and kill Rod Reiss. I don't know. I don't know. The fact that they were in the OP makes me believe that they're going to show up at some point. Otherwise, why would you have had Bertolt and Reiner and them in the OP? But I don't know. So anyway, I've talked for an hour and a half. So yeah, I'm curious to know your thoughts about this episode. This was a really, really good episode to kind of like come off the high of episodes 6 and 7. This is a really good episode, like come off that high and be like, okay, now what? Like I really, really excited. I don't know if I'm going to be able to wait just before I watch episode 9. I mean, obviously I'm going to wait a couple days, but I don't know. Oof. I'm so curious, y'all. I'm so curious. But anyway, in the meantime, I'm curious to know what y'all thought of this episode. Please let me know down in the comments below. If you have spoilers, make a big old spoiler tag, skip a bunch of lines, and then have your conversation there. Y'all have been doing amazing doing that, by the way. But in the meantime, I hope y'all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe, take care, and yeah, I'll talk to y'all again soon with episode 9 of Attack on Titan Season 3. Bye.